What's up, folks? Welcome to Math Walkthroughs with Mr. Weeb. Today we're graphing linear patterns. These are our Lesson 2 Your Turn questions. Let's see what the first one says. It says, what number pattern could this graph represent? Okay, when I look at this, I'm seeing that the first term is going to be somewhere between 4 and 6. It looks like it's right in between, so that would be a 5. So my pattern is starting with a 5. The next one I'm looking at is term 2, which is between 8 and 10, which is 9. Now I'm seeing that it's going up by 4. We added 4, so I'm thinking that I should add 4 on the next one, but I should check my graph just to see. So term 3, between 12 and 14, it is 13. And then we go up another 4 to get to 17, and another 4 to get to 21. So let's do that. 17, 21. And that's it. It goes on forever, so we should put the ellipses just to show that. Next we've got, what number pattern could this graph represent? Okay, we are starting very low. When we look at number 1, our first term is going to be probably at 1. I'm estimating because it's not right on a line, but hopefully this will work. And let's see what the next one is. Term 2 is right after the 10. Maybe it's at 12, somewhere between 10 and 15. So if that was 12, 13, 14, yeah, let's put it at 12. Okay, now that added 11. So if our pattern is correct, the next one should be 23 if I add 11 to 12. Let's see if that matches up with term 3 over here. Here it's between 20 and 25. That looks reasonable to me that would be 23. Next we add 11 again. It should be 34. There it is. And if we added 11 again, it should be 45. So it all works out. Let's put them down. Term 4 was 34 if we're adding 11, and we add 11 again, and we get to 45. All right. Next it says create a table of values for each pattern, and then graph the pattern. Okay. The pattern is 15, so the first term has to be 15. The second term, if we're looking right here, this is the second term, this is the second term here. So I put 17 as the second term, the third term is 19, the fourth term is 21, and the fifth term is 23. Next we've got to decide on a scale for the x-axis and a scale for the y-axis. We should probably space them apart. We don't want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because then we're not using up all of this space. We have a whole bunch. Let's just go with 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go with every 4 lines, we'll put a term. Okay, so every fourth line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Look, that worked out really well. Next, we need to decide on the scale for the y-axis. So I can see that the highest number that we're going to go to is 23 right here. However, I counted, and we only have 20 lines along here. So 23 would be off of the scale, and we need to have it on the scale. So I'm going to choose to go up by 2s every time. So this will be 2, then 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I'm only labeling every second line because it's too crowded otherwise, and we want it to look neat. The important thing to remember is that everything has to be it always has to be going up by the same amount every time. It has to be consistent. So if this is a 2, that means this is a 2. And every single jump is a jump of 2. We can't start with a jump of 5 and then go to 2 and then go to 3. It's got to be consistent the whole way along. All right, our next step is taking this table of values and turning them into ordered pairs so that we can plot them onto our graph. I'm going to do this very fast. Let's just put at 1 we should have a 15. At 2 we should have a 17. At 3 we should have a 19. At 4 we should have 21. And at 5, we should have 23. All I was doing was looking across here. 2 is 17, 3 is 19, 4 is 21, 5 is 23. Now I can take all of these ordered pairs and put them onto the graph. So our first one, 1 and 15. So I look from 1 and I go up the graph, and I'm looking along the y-axis as I go up and seeing where is 15. Well, here's 16, here's 14. 15 should go right between them. So I will put at 15 right there, and I will label it 1, 15. Next I'm plotting at 2, 17. So I look here at 2, I go up the y-axis until I get to 17. Well, I know it's right after 16 because 18 is there, so it has to be right there. At 2, 17. Next I'm looking at 3, 19. So I go where 3 is, and I'm going up till I get to 19. Well, I know it's after 18 before 20, right there. So I put a dot right there and label it 3, 19. Then I'm looking at 421. So at 4, I'm going up until I hit 21. Here's 20, right? Because I look across, there's 20, and then 21 is right there. So I put my dot right at the intersection of 4 and 21, and I label it 421. Finally, I'm looking over at 5 and going all the way up to 23. This is where it gets tricky because as you get farther away from the y-axis, from the labels, you can kind of get lost, but just be careful. So we're looking at 23. Here's 22. 23 should be there, and there's where 5 is. So we can put our spot right over here and label it 5, 23. All right, that is the graph. You can join these dots like so. Let's move along to the next question. It's very much the same thing. We're going to take the first term and we're going to say that first term value is going to be a 1 because I'm looking up here. The first term, the second term, the third term. All I'm going to do is put them down here. So the second term is a 10, third term is 19, then is a 28, and followed by a 37. Next, we've got to, I think we'll use the same scale for the x value. And since we have a 37 as the highest value we're going to have, and I know that we have 20 of these, then we can go up by 2 every time and it will reach a maximum of 40, which is just what we need. Now that we've got our table of values and we've chosen a scale for our x-axis and our y-axis, now we just need to place each of these as if they are numbered pairs. So let's go ahead and plot them. The first one is at a 1 and 1. That would be right here because I know this is 0 and this here is 0 and this here is 2. So 1 would be just between there. We should also label this. This is at 1, 1. Next, we're looking at 2. We have the term value 10. So we go up here, and it should be right on the line between 8 and 12. 10 goes right there. So I'll put the 10 right there, and we should label it. This is at 2, 10. At 3, we have 19. So I look up. It's right before 20, right there. And I label it as 320. Next, at 4, we have 28. So I look across. Here's where it gets tricky. Don't get lost. We have just 28. It should be right on a line. 28 is right there. I look across here to see at 4, 28. And I label it 428. Finally, we've got 5 with 37. So I'm going over here, going up to almost to 40. Here's 36, and 37 should be right there. At 5, 37. Finally, we can place our arrow. And there we go. We have successfully graphed this pattern and put it into a table of values in order to do that. Let's look at what our next question is. It says, what is easy to tell about a pattern from its graph? And you might say something like this. It's easy to tell if it's growing quickly or slowly. For instance, if we look at these two graphs, I can tell that this graph here is growing much more quickly. It's got a very steep slope, And this slope is much more gradual. It's a shallower slope, so it's not growing as quickly. Let's look at the next question. It says, if the scales of the graphs are the same, which pattern will have the steepest graph? Okay, all I need to do is identify by how much is each pattern growing. So this one looks like it's growing by 4 each time. This one looks like it's growing by 5 each time. This one is only growing by 2 each time, and this one is growing by 3 each time. That means that the one that's growing fastest is B. And if we look over at the graphs and look at them at the same time, we can see that that's the case. This one here is growing by 2 each time, right? From one to the next, we're growing by 2. This one is growing by 9 each time, the same amount. And you can tell that the one that's growing by 9 has a much steeper slope than this one. If you look back at the question, which one's growing by the same amount? Well, the one that's growing by more each time, that's going to have the steeper graph. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.